What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? You are watching the Fantasy Points Day 3 Draft live stream. I was just trying to pull up the actual NFL draft in my background on a legal stream and was just bombarded with 15 different random pop-ups that probably have viruses on them. But it's exciting. It's exciting. We have all of day 1 and day 2 to recap. We can talk about some of the picks that are going off the board, who we're rooting for, who we're hoping for, what we think are the best available prospects. Jake, Wes, thanks for joining me today. How you guys feeling?
Doing well, man. Excited to talk day 3 and recap the first couple days of the draft.
Absolutely. Let's get to it.
All right. So I'll start it off with you, Wes. Who are you most excited to see drafted? Who are some players you were higher on than current expected draft capital would imply?
Well, definitely, just going down the list at quarterback, Sam Howell, of course. I also like Carson Strong. Running back is really gone like we expected. We're getting into the second tier guys, and then wide receiver, same deal. I mean, everybody's gone off the board pretty much exactly as we expected. Then at tight end, there's definitely some value there. We had my guy Charlie Kohler. There's Isaiah Likely, and those are mainly the guys I'm looking for here to get picked up here in the 4th.
What about you, Jake? Or are you too busy focused on USFL these days?
Yeah, I mean, I have been grinding USFL pretty hard, but I mean, I got to say, I really didn't expect Sam Howell to make it to day 3. Another guy I'm pretty intrigued by is Damien Pierce. Scott, I know you kind of noted that he, depending on how you look at him, he could be RB3, RB4 in this class. He could be RB15, right? So I think, his landing spot is a little intriguing. And then some wide receivers that I kind of like are Calvin Austin, even though he's more of a, kind of a gadget guy, and Khalil Shakur is another guy I'm interested in today. Hopefully all those guys go around 4 and get decent landing spots.
Yeah, Calvin Austin is a big-time Brett Whitefield guy who was our special guest for the day 1 live stream. He's told me, the height's a concern, sure, but I think he's better than Rondale Moore. I think he's better than Wandel Robinson. I personally don't agree with that, but he's very, very high on him. Thought he should have went round 2. So I do think he's an intriguing process. And, you nailed it with Damien Pierce. I think I should have just stayed true to my model. Instead, I sort of sold myself on the upside argument with him. Just obscenely hyper efficient on a per touch basis last year. Model didn't like the lack of touches. Athleticism model didn't like the maybe the 6th worst 3-cone ever. It was something nearly that bad. And so I just sold myself in the upside argument. I had Jim Nagy on the podcast, who's extremely high on him, talked about him as a bell cow running back at the next level, and made some excuses for the lack of touches. He sort of strongly hinted at, maybe I'm being conspiratorial here, but strongly hinted that what happened was there might have been another running back on the team who demanded touches and would have threatened to transfer if he didn't get those touches. And Damien Pierce is more of a team player. Lance Zierlein says it was a fireable offense. He didn't get twice as many touches. And that coaching staff did get fired. So in my model, if I just doubled his touches, he would have been my RB3. So that was the argument I sold myself on, but probably should have stayed true to the model. But you never know with these running backs. It's really all about draft capital. And, not a lot of running backs have gone off the board because that position is so devalued these days. And it's really so heavily landing spot dependent in a way that it's not with wide receiver or tight end where, hey, Atlanta, Houston, I was not an Isaiah Spiller guy, but I have to take him seriously if he lands in Atlanta or Houston. Any other dream potential landing spots? Maybe Sam Howell to Seahawks or anything else you're seeing, Wes?
No, it's really not looking good for Sam Howell. He's going in day 3. It's the odds are just so stacked against him. I mean, excuse me. If there was a guy that I would, be excited about possibly overcoming that, it would be Howell, but it's definitely not looking like a dream type situation. I mean, maybe Seattle, I guess, if he goes there, but like I was telling you guys, I really think they're just waiting for the Mayfield market to torpedo, and then they're just going to go get him, possibly off of free agency. I don't know. We'll see. But
that would be
I'm not going to get super excited about Sam Howell going anywhere on day 3. But yeah, I mean, Isaiah Spiller, we're going to see a lot of guys at running back get drafted that are going to be that are going to make a difference. And yeah, and then there's guys like Justin Ross. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, how he can overcome some people's expectations, lack of expectations. And
I think it's all injury with him. I really do.
Yeah. I think people just they look at him and you can't do this, you can't do that. I think he can. I think he's. I think just coming back and playing for Clemson last year was a big deal. It wasn't
despite a broken bone in his foot the entire season. Bottom 5 levels of quarterback play.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit. I like Khalil Shakir as well. And there's then we're going to get into the sleepers here that like I talked about. One guy was Derek Young out of Lenore Ryan. I like him a lot. I think he's a project though. He's raw. And Jaquari Robertson from Wake Forest, like him quite a bit. And Samari Torres.
I like him too. He follows me on Twitter, so I put out a complimentary tweet about him a few days ago. Any NFL players or draftable college players who follow me get free tweets hyping them up.
That's cool. Yeah, and then Kyle Phillips, he's another deeper guy, and then Samari Torres, he's 24, or he's going to be 24 in week 1. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of guys that have a lot of potential if they
What was Torres' story? Was he that rhymed? Was he JUCO? He only had 1 year of.
No, he was at Montana. He played FCS. Prior to coming over. Yeah.
Okay.
Legit
So
measurables though.
Only other thing I'll say about players yet to be drafted: Justin Ross. Jaguars do not have a round 4 pick, but they have a number of round 5, round 6 picks. Obviously, that would be the dream landing spot for him. But I mean, we're already getting some questions in chat. People want to know, what do we think of the Breece Hall versus Kenneth Walker landing spot? I imagine that's going to take up the bulk of our time today, talking about these landing spots and fits. But again, I do just want to pat myself on the back here. I mean, just looking at my rankings in contrast to like any of the top NFL mock drafters or other fantasy guys, like I think I have very few misses, and just based off draft capital, the players who I were lower on either have yet to be drafted or went lower. The players I'm higher on went higher than expected. Wandel Robinson and Taekwon Thornton alongside Justin Ross were my 3 favorite wide receivers versus expected draft capital. I was a lot lower on Sky Moore. I got a lot of heat for it on various podcasts. I had him wide receiver 10, not too low, but he went wide receiver 14.
So let me stop you and just throw a little context in here. Talking about where these guys are, where they're being drafted, as far as like the exact spot, or are we looking at their landing spot here? Because and then their perceived, and then their intended fantasy value, because I think we can get confused looking at, this guy was drafted first and before this guy, but does that really matter? And because I think that Sky Moore is actually going to be one of the top wideouts in fantasy from this class.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So I do a number of rookie drafts before the NFL draft. So
the Texans took Damien Pierce.
Oh my God, did they?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That is big money right there.
I'm bailed out.
This
fits in. And the Buccaneers took Cade Otton, a potential Rob Gronkowski heir apparent.
Is he
Wow.
is he even going to re-sign? I don't even know if he's going to retire. It may be this year.
I mean, they just moved a bunch of cap around, so I bet he's going to. I'm thinking he's going to come back. But yeah, this fits it right in with the conversation we were just having: draft capital versus landing spot. Yeah, I just like selling at a profit on like take Taekwon Thornton in round 5 of a rookie draft, and now he's worth like round 2 or round 3, quick profit. But yeah, like you're saying, landing spot is massive. I'm just going off of draft capital, and this is the thing. Like, so Damien Pierce doesn't have the draft capital. But I mean, who outside of the top 2 running backs are you going to put above him? Is he not going to be the RB1? He's up against who? Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead?
Oh, you mean in Houston? Yeah, but I think the big issue in Houston, which right now I have them as number 4 in my in grades so far in the draft, and that was before the Pierce pick. I think it's a good move. It's the offensive line. They're just so bad, but volume wise, I think if he lands with enough volume, absolutely he'll be definitely a big fantasy winner here. But it makes me go and look at the Marlon Mack move. I'm thinking more of a 50-50, and then we're going to have Rex Burkhead still coming in to do the passing down things. So probably looking at a 3-headed backfield, but definitely a situation where if Pierce is legit and he's going to step up, then it's an opportunity definitely that he could take that backfield all to himself.
All right, we buried the lead for long enough. Let's hit on some of these higher end prospects. Wes, Breece Hall to the Jets, Kenneth Walker to the Seahawks. What do you think of those 2 landing spots?
I mean, it doesn't matter where these two guys go.
That's my take.
Yeah, the one. So Kenneth Walker is definitely not the ideal situation because we saw how good Rashad Penny was last year, and it's nearly impossible that he's just going to sit. I think this pretty much sticks a fork in Chris Carson. He's done there. So I like that situation. But I mean, Michael Carter. I mean, his fantasy value is gone. There's almost nothing there anymore. This is going to be a Breece Hall situation, 100%. Love what the Jets have done. They are the highest graded team for me through day 2. So I'm just extremely excited about what they've done, and it's big for fantasy too. I think it's on every pick. I just loved everything they've done in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on the Jets. Plus, they drafted the highest drafted Bearcat of all time. So, I mean, how can you not love it? I do think my one concern with Walker is, I mean, this Seahawks offense could be really bad, especially if Locke ends up the starter. I mean, they're probably going to be the worst offense in the league, and I wouldn't want to touch either Penny or Walker if that's the case. So.
No, I don't think that. No, I agree with you 100%. But I don't think that is the plan in Seattle. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid trading away their draft capital. They've done that for long enough. I don't think that that's something that they want to do. They need to rebuild this team now that they don't have Russell Wilson. They don't have to. They're not in the win now mode. So I think worst case scenario, they go into the season with Locke, which we all know is not going to work. It's not going to be good for anybody there. I would be shocked if Tyler Lockett sticks around. I mean, maybe, but I really think they're going to go out and get. It would blow my mind if they drafted Sam Howell, because at this point, going this late into the draft, there's so few guys that emerge as I mean, there's always the exceptions, but I really think they're just waiting on Baker Mayfield. It's who they have to add here, and that'll be actually a decent addition. Let's not forget Baker Mayfield's got one of the strongest arms in the league. He threw I believe 62 miles an hour at the combine a couple of years ago. The only guy ahead of him is Josh Allen. I mean, this guy's got some.
That's incredible. I had no idea.
Yeah, serious ball velocity. He can gun the ball. We saw. The worst thing for me is listening to players whine about injuries. Because if you're injured, then take yourself off the field. We don't need to hear about it. And that was one of the things that really, really frustrated me about Baker Mayfield, especially for a guy that's supposed to be the face of a franchise. I don't want to hear excuses. Nobody does. The team doesn't. The fans don't. Nobody wants to hear excuses. So don't whine about your shoulder. If you're that hurt, then get off the field. But I mean, looking back prior to last season, I mean, Baker, his star was on the rise. He was somebody that was set up to be a decent quarterback in the league. So I think it's still there. He better be 100% accurate that it was his shoulder, because but I really think that's why his market's been so soft, is because people don't want to bring in a quarterback that's just going to make a bunch of excuses.
See, I'm sympathetic to him here. In general, I agree with you, but it's just to see how much his market has tanked. Like, you'd think the NFL teams, at least a few of them, would give him credit for being such a tough competitor, trying to grit his teeth and play through injury, but they're writing him off as if he's dead and he's terrible, when, like, I mean, he was clearly extremely hurt, and he showed promise before that.
He didn't play through injury. He whined through injury. So it's like go get the surgery. Don't go have it done. Your team's not going to the playoffs, so go have the procedure done and be ready for the next team, and when did he shut himself down? Week 17? I mean, week 16? I mean,
there were some brutal stretches. I think he took 12 sacks in one game, 4 interceptions in another.
And you can't always put sacks on the offensive line. A lot of times it's the quarterback not setting up his protections properly. The offensive line can't see what he sees. He's got to set them up individually, and you can't always put that on the quarterback. And I mean, on the offensive line. And let's face it, the Browns' offensive line was the top unit in the league. So to see him sacked that many times is definitely on him, 100%.
Yeah, so let's get back to some of the bigger fantasy names. My thoughts on the Breece Hall thing, I side with Wes. I had a little back and forth with Mike Clay, who kind of thinks basically Michael Carter is not going to be dust, and this was a bad landing spot. I don't think so. And this class, I mean, this Jets team is stacked, like, at least on paper. If Zach Wilson can be even like 80% of what his upside supposedly was, they should smash. These should absolutely smash. For Dynasty, I'm trying to buy Zach Wilson cheap now before the inevitable post-puberty breakout. And Kenneth Walker, the team probably isn't good, but the plus is they love to run the ball. We've seen a committee in a number of years. Chris Carson, I don't know if he's ever going to play football again. Rashad Penny, hyper efficient, can't stay healthy. Is it a committee? It's always been a committee in the post Marshawn Lynch era. It's tough to say, but I mean, like, I'm inclined to side with Wes, where it's just like, this is an incredible talent. He's going to get the rock. And I watched the press conference. John Schneider hyped him up as a pass catcher, said he was a seriously underrated pass catcher, which is what both Wes and I felt in our pre-draft analysis. Let's go back to the Jets, though. What do we think Garrett Wilson does to Elijah Moore? Because Joe Douglas said he had a top 8 grade on Garrett Wilson. He said Elijah was like their 24th or 25th highest rated player in last year's class. So it seems Wilson's rated higher, at least compared to Elijah before they got their hands on him. But what was weird to me was watching that press conference, and this is where I can get too in the weeds and too conspiratorial, but they barely mentioned Elijah Moore. They spent way more time gassing up Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios, which was just, I don't know. It was strange to me. It left me with a little sour taste in my mouth. What do you think, Wes? Do you think this opens things up for Elijah, less defensive pressure? You think, there's a chance he's not going to be the wide receiver 1 next year or the year after that?
It's a tough division, definitely. Going up against the Dolphins, who you say what you will about the offense or whatever, which I'm actually high on now. But the defense is legit, and then you got the Bills and you got the Patriots. I mean, it's a brutal schedule that they play. There's no way that the Jets are getting through that schedule without featuring Elijah Moore, who's just as athletic as Garrett Wilson. So, you can Corey Davis, he has the contract, and Braxton Berrios, I love him. He's a guy that I thought deserved a lot more appreciation for what he does on the field, but he's wide receiver 4. Let's not forget that. Plus he's a Pro Bowler. He's a Pro Bowler as a special teamer, not as a receiver.
That's right.
But when somebody goes down, I mean, you've got a guy that can step in and you're not going to have a massive drop off. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's basically 1A, 1B with Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson, and then Corey Davis. Of course, he's making the money, but if these kids weren't rookies, they'd be making more money than he is.
Right. So those are the top 2 running backs in the class. Just talked about Garrett Wilson. We spent some time in the day 1 live stream talking about the other top wide receivers. What do we think about Christian Watson and Sky Moore just falling to the absolute nuts landing spots? Obviously, Christian Watson, very raw, but I mean, there's minimal target competition. By the way, Amari Rodgers is like the nuts best ball pick of all nuts best ball picks, in my opinion. And then there's Sky Moore. I mean, you're pegged to Patrick Mahomes throughout the entirety of your rookie contract. None of those guys on that roster intimidate me. Of course, either team could add an Odell Beckham Jr. or Jarvis Landry or a Will Fuller. Yeah, like how high are you willing to put them above and beyond their draft capital?
They're wide receiver 1s right now in their rosters. How many times have we seen the narrative of McCole Hardman stepping into that role and being there? I mean, it's not working. There's been a couple examples where he's been decent, but I think Sky Moore is going to be a beast in Kansas City. And you know how much I love Christian Turner. He's, to me, just as fast as Jameson Williams and Chris Olave. And, he's a year older and all that jazz, but who really cares? Because he's going to step on the field this year as the wide receiver 1 with the best quarterback in the league throwing to him.
So for fantasy purposes, where would you guys take Watson and Sky Moore right now?
I'm not taking him over the big 5, but definitely 6 and 7 for sure. Yeah, I'm taking him ahead of Treylon Burks. How about that?
Yeah.
Hey,
I think that's reasonable.
You missed the day 1 live stream, Jay. Oh, actually, you were there in chat.
Yeah.
But we sort of dumped all over Treylon Burks the entire live stream.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm pretty bearish on Burks overall.
Yeah.
If Robert Woods recovers from this ACL, all right, I think he's a huge winner.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1.
That's another amazing best ball pick as it stands.
Yes,
but I mean, the dynasty community has always been madly in love with Treylon Burks, and now they're saying this is the dream landing spot of all landing spots. So I watched this post-draft presser, and it was really interesting. So John Robinson, who Wes Huber had some warranted unkind words for on the day 1 live stream, joined the head coach, Mike Vrabel, and he brought Treylon Burks up onto the stage, which I was like, ugh, what a cowardly move. Like, you're just trying to deflect criticism over an all-time bad trade by, having this rookie here to shield you. But it was a really fascinating interview. They talked about meeting Treylon Burks at the combine, and it went really bad. And then they brought him in for a visit, and it was the best thing both sides could have done. Treylon Burks immediately just went, thank you so much for giving me a second chance. He immediately owned up to the bad combine. He was like, I just let the moment get to me. I was nervous and I wasn't honest with you and I wasn't myself, and I'm sorry. Like, this is my chance. And they really hit it off. He says he models his game after AJ Brown. He also said they watched film together, and Vrabel was like, well, what happened on this play? Looks like you gave a half-assed effort. And Treylon Burks was like, you're right. I did. I need to do better. And like, unreal honesty, accountability, just an insanely likable guy. Like, I'm really rooting for him to succeed, but obviously have the concerns that are in my article and Wes's article on the day 1 live stream. But yeah, I mean, your boy Jahan Dotson, Wes, you're putting him above Burks, I imagine.
Oh yeah, he was. I had him above. I mean, before the draft, I had him
right.
Burks below Pickens and Watson and Moore, and maybe not Moore, but definitely Pickens, just because I didn't get into a in-depth film look at Moore. I just didn't have enough time. Next year, I need to get into the there's your guy Daniel Bellinger's went to the Giants. It's just to kind of go back to the thing about Greg Robinson. I mean, we're sitting there in a room and, there's everyone standing in front of him, and you could take the combined salaries of everybody standing there and it still wouldn't match up to this guy. And he's over here crying to us. Like, how are we supposed to feel sorry for you? And it was a situation that when you combine that with what I think is the worst trade in NFL history, I've lost all respect for the guy as far as an NFL GM. He's just embarrassed himself too many times now.
I love these takes from you, Wes. I don't disagree. I also watched the Jahan Dotson press conference, which was another fascinating one. It was probably the best presser I've watched so far. They heavily imply that he's going to be their slot wide receiver. Of course, they like his versatility, but the big thing was really what he brings to the team on the interior. We'll talk about the David Bell landing spot, also Wandel and Taekwon Thornton. They really like what he brings on the interior. They asked, so what sold you on Dotson? This was their guy from the very beginning. And Ron Rivera said, hilariously, the biggest thing is when you look at guys and you break them down, you look at who they're playing with, and not to knock any of his teammates, but he groans. All right, the quarterback was a good player. Okay, he wasn't a great player. And Dotson made this guy better. You saw the catches he made. I'm not trying to kill the quarterback, but you sit there and think he didn't throw an accurate ball, but this guy was making him look good. And that's exactly what Wes said to me. He was like, you're too low on Dotson. You're not accurately factoring in the quarterback play. And so I looked at the PFF grades, and the PFF grades were high on him. Then I looked at some of the more advanced data, like catchable target rate, separation rate, and that really showed. And so I wasn't high enough. He also gave us some insight on the other wide receivers. They really like Drake London. Didn't at all question his ability to separate. They did question Jameson Williams' polish as a route runner and his ability to work underneath. But they loved Dotson, view him as an immediate contributor. Rivera said he reminded him of Deshaun Jackson mixed with Steve Smith. And so I love this. And yeah, he doesn't have a good quarterback this year, but he did well enough with a bad quarterback last year. So great call on that, Wes.
Well, let's look at the quarterback though, because there was an issue with, I think, Carson Wentz. I mean, he was healthy. He was healthy enough to play through the season. But I didn't feel like Michael Pittman was the greatest fit with him as, the QB wide receiver connection. Michael Pittman.
Why is that?
Well, because Carson Wentz is a cover 2, cover 4, cover 6 quarterback. And he didn't have that. He didn't have those types of receivers on that team. He had cover 1, cover 3 guys, and Michael Pittman's mainly a cover 3 guy. But going out and get Jahan Dotson, I mean, they're definitely showing their analytics here, because Jahan Dotson was the top cover 2 wide receiver in the class. So it's like the perfect match there. I mean, you could make the argument that Olave was right there with him cover 2, but as far as like a specialist, I think Dotson was the top at defeating cover 2, and that's with one of the most piss poor accuracy from a quarterback that I saw from all the tape I watched. Sean Clifford, you should not have. Okay, so they just brought in another guy, Drew Alar. He's their big blue chipper that they're bringing in this year, and I watched a little bit of his tape. Oh man, we're talking. This guy is going to be playing on Sundays, and I'm telling you, he's got some traits that I'm not even going to comp, because it's disgusting how good he is. Sean Clifford's not going to make it. If he even misses a snap, Drew Alar is going to take the season. He's not going to play the rest of the year. That's how good he is. So it's a shame that we had to watch Dotson play his career with Clifford, but he was drafted mid first round, so not a total loss. But Definitely excited about him there playing with Wentz. I don't love Wentz obviously, but
you said Wentz is a top cover 2 quarterback.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the
Yeah,
top 5.
So why is he so good at? By the way, the Giants took Daniel Bellinger, a tight end I'm very high on, which is a great landing spot. You have RSJ in a 1-year minimum deal. Like, honestly, there's a chance he might not even make the roster. So great landing spot. All right, my question to you, Wes, and then we'll get back into some landing spots. Why is Wentz amazing at cover 2, but cover 2 is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite, allegedly?
Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite is not cover 2. I think Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite is good coverage because he's elite across the board. There's no kryptonite there. I think that's being blown out of proportion.
False narrative. Okay.
Yeah. But I could definitely see that from Josh Allen. But it's going to be the same answer for every quarterback in the league. It's your pre-snap reads, your pre-snap recognition. So you're going to move a wide receiver around. You're going to try to open up. You're going to try to see what type of coverage the team is in. And you're going to little things like that, little tells that a defense is going to give away, and he's able to read it and able to recognize that cover 2 is what he's going to see there, and then he knows how to attack it. He knows to go for the honey hole, which is right over the corners. They're not going to run with the wide receivers in a cover 2. They're going to sit. They're going to jam, and they're going to try to direct him into where their defense is going to play and where they're going to shade. And when they get past the corners, the spot between the time that the safeties can get over to the sideline and when the corner recognizes that the ball's going to that side is considered the honey hole. And he just knows how to attack it. He knows how to get it there. And you can just throw it out there like it's obvious, but it's actually something that a lot of quarterbacks struggle with.
All right, well, let's dive into some of these more other landing spots. Someone asked about David Bell, who, like I said, this is a really tricky class, high volatility across the board. And David Bell, he popped in some key stats, like the second most career receptions of any Power 5 wide receiver ever. I think he ranked 6th in career yards per game. Advanced metrics, he fell short, and then it was, of course, an all-time bad combine. Wes and I get into this conversation a lot, and he's not going to love what I'm about to say, but I tend to believe athleticism is somewhat overrated at the wide receiver position, and especially at the slot wide receiver position, where you can get away with route running nuance. Look at Hunter Renfrow. Perfect example. He's built like me, and he smashed last year for fantasy, and so
he's not built like you. If we tested Hunter Renfrow right now, he would put up some unbelievable numbers.
Yeah, no. So Wes is absolutely correct. I just mean when you think of NFL wide receiver, you don't really think of Hunter Renfrow with his shirt off. And so my line of thinking is, okay, move him to the slot where athleticism matters less. You can get by on pristine route running. And then this is an amazing spot. Like, he's their new Jarvis Landry in the slot. And you have Deshaun Watson at quarterback. Like, oh my goodness. So even though draft capital wasn't as high as I think my ranking on him was, which was a lot lower than the fantasy industry, I'm pretty bullish. What are your thoughts, Wes? And you could critique my athleticism comments if you want.
I don't need to. I don't like being attached to those type of statements. So I'm not even going to go there. And so I like David Bell. I do. And I think this is a good spot for him. This is, they went out and they got their Anthony Schwartz last year that, he's got all the athleticism that you could want. But I like David Bell. I think he's a better football player than he is an athlete. And that's really what we're gonna see from guys who fail at the combine. And I've told this story a few times. I shook the guy's hand and he about broke my hand when I shook it. I mean, this guy is built like a tank. I patted him on the back. I was like, good luck this year. And his back was shred. There were muscles on top of his muscles. I mean, this guy is built like a tank, literal tank. And you're not going to press him. You're not going to man up on him. And when you have a guy that knows how to defeat a zone, then and you combine all that together, I mean, you're talking about a true weapon there. And then I know there's a lot of people out there that want to see Deshaun Watson suffer because of all this stuff that's going on in the background and stuff like that. And the NFL is just decide on the case, I mean, but obviously they're feeling like they don't have to rush through it. But if he gets on the field, we're going to see some good numbers out of David Bell. And especially, I think it's going to be a good 1-2 between him and Amari Cooper.
So this is random, but I was at Whole Foods yesterday and I was getting some sockeye salmon, and the fishmonger and I struck up a conversation. I didn't tell him what I did for a living. And he was telling me his father works at a strip club where Deshaun Watson was a regular. And apparently his dad knew he was going to Cleveland weeks before the official announcement, which that's what he told him. But I sort of doubt that because no one even thought Cleveland was in the running. But that reminds me of
Deshaun Watson knew that at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But this literally happened yesterday. Just a random thing. But it reminds me of Treylon Burks because Treylon Burks' high school coach called him this the morning before he was drafted, saying the Titans were going to come up and get him. So clearly a guy they really coveted throughout the process. Let's talk about one of my sleepers, Taekwon Thornton. And so I did like him. The production model did like him. Athleticism model did like him. But I also just loaded up on him in every single dynasty league just because I know the NFL covets speed and he has rare speed and he's going to get drafted higher than, Dane Brugler had him round 5. Lots of guys had him day 3 than whatever the expectation was. So the question I'm asking myself is do I sell at a profit now? What do I do? Is this, and I watched the post-draft presser and he talked about why they drafted. By the way, the Nick Caserio replacement in New England is a lizard person. He gives off weird Mark Zuckerberg. I'll have to send it in a group chat. Mark Zuckerberg, lizard person vibes. But all he said about Taekwon, and he said it over and over again, was he's fast. He's really fast, and he's fast, and we took him because he's fast. So it's that didn't really inspire me at all. Is he just the new Chris Hogan, Philip Dorsett? Is he just running empty go routes all day and not getting targets? I think he might. I had a cute Twitter thread about him a few weeks ago where all the scouts were knocking him over his thin wrists when he has one of the best 10-yard splits of all time. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Wes? Are you optimistic? Are you buying into draft capital, or are you sticking to your own evaluation?
No, I like him. So he's a guy that I was big on in college fantasy. Had him on so many rosters, and then he had his down 2020 where he was injured.
He was hurt, right?
Yeah, and he was trying to play through it. And again, I would rather him just maybe it didn't require surgery, but I just felt like there should have been a rest situation there because it hurt the DFS community. I know that because we're all expecting Taekwon to be the guy there, and he never did anything for us that year, but. He was good this past year though, and I was it was just a welcome sight for my college fantasy rosters. But he's a little thin, but the issue I have is I just don't love the landing spot. He's going to play with the quarterback that it just has some of the best accuracy that you could have under 30 yards, but beyond that, I mean, you're really not going to get much out of Mac Jones. And I mean, really sideline to sideline, he's struggling. He can't throw the ball from one end of the field to the other. So it made a lot of sense that they went out and got a guy like Devontae Parker, and then pairing him up with the guys that they already have. It was a really good mix. I like that mixture that they have. But going and getting a guy that runs, world-class speed. I mean, it's just not it's not a good fit. I mean, what's he going to do? He's not going to bring anything to the table that the other guys aren't already doing for the team. So maybe they're, I mean, I hate to say that they're looking at the long-term potential of possibly trading him, but it's not a great fit with Mac Jones. It's not gonna help the team much, I don't think. And maybe it's just me. What do you think, Jake?
I mean, I don't see where he fits in this receiving core. Nelson Aguilar's still on the team. I mean, Kendrick Bourne.
I don't think he's good though. That's
no,
my
Aguilar's not. He's the one guy I would cross off the list right away. He was awful.
And that's what he was. And that's what he was doing last year. He was just running the go route over and over again. So I
so do you guys think they're going to cut him then? Because I mean, they owe him $10 million.
Yeah, cut him and put Taekwon out there to do the runoffs. Because that's what it is. It's just runoffs. You're just trying to carry.
But I mean,
you're looking at a corner. You're
looking at like
the Chris Hogan treadmill role.
Yeah, like it's not, but it's not like, I mean, Aguilar was 7 fantasy points.
Here.
Like it's not super valuable.
They're not. Yeah, well, I mean, he was also bad at that job.
Yeah, true.
Because here's the thing,
$10 million in dead money.
I'm looking at his numbers. His change of direction is not good. 32nd percentile pro shuttle, 40th in 3-count. He doesn't have good. I shouldn't say it's not like he can't compete with those numbers, but with the type of quarterback he has, so he's not a guy that's gonna do a lot of the underneath stuff. So I mean, he's a one-trick guy as far as that goes, but he does it really well. But I'm like, okay, so I can't sit here and say that Mac Jones can't build his arm strength over his career. I can't say that. Because nobody at the quarterback position follows just absolutes to the letter. So I mean, maybe he gets that arm strength up enough to be, if he can hit 40 yards, then we're in business on Taekwon. If he can hit 40 yards, we're in business. Otherwise, we need to wait for coverage busts for him to hit him on 30-yard goes and posts. But he's got really good explosion. He can get off the line. He can go up and get the ball, climb the ladder, and he's got speed for days. So maybe that's
almost word for word what the Caserio clone said which he just got from Belichick. So like, great analysis, Wes, because that's almost word for word what he said.
Yeah,
because finally a reporter pressed them on like, okay, what besides the speed? And then he said basically everything you just said, which just a testament to the analysis you do. So let's talk about a different player. John Metchi, I never expected to have much interest in him, just the narratives surrounding him and just like the superficial stats. He didn't really pop, but the model liked him, and I really sold myself when I wrote him up. And what did it was looking at the injuries and the serious nature of those injuries and taking out those injury weeks or adjusting for the injury. He looked far more impressive. And so that's what Nick Caserio said. He was like, listen, some of the things that he played with, no normal people would do that. And they gave up a round 3, a round 4, and another round 4 pick to move into round 2 to take him. He said it was a player that we liked probably as much as any player in this draft. They're not going to rush him on the ACL. But I mean, to me, this seems like another great landing spot. There's Brandon Cooks, but what else is there?
Well, I wanted Chris Olave to go there, and that's. I mean, we don't know the exact speed on Metchi, but I mean it's good. It's good. It's definitely, if it's not in the 4.3s, it's low 4.4s. And I think this makes a lot more sense than the guy they went and got from Michigan last year. His name eludes me. I could look it up, but I think he's gonna have a better impact on the team than their second rounder from last year, which is driving me crazy now. Let's see.
Nico Collins.
Yes, Nico Collins. Thank you. Yeah. So I think this is he's going to have a better impact, but I mean, again, we're going to go back to the fit thing. So Metchi was good against cover 3, so that's going to work well because that's where Davis Mills excels, and I'm really high on Davis Mills. I don't know what the consensus is out there, but I was really impressed. We had 12 games to evaluate him coming out of college, And so, I mean, I couldn't even write up a profile on him because I just didn't know what to go into. Because I mean, you don't want to evaluate a player's traits on just a couple of plays. I couldn't do it. But from what we saw this past year, I mean, it was just ridiculously good. It was just as impressive to me as Davis Mills. Obviously, he didn't have the surrounding cast, but not Davis Mills, Mac Jones. He was just as impressive as Mac Jones, I thought. And I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about this team that they're putting together. Houston, they're actually doing a good job here. They're actually putting together some nice pieces. I like it.
Yeah, I think Mills is actually going to end up being a pretty sneaky pick in fantasy drafts, especially in best ball. I like him a lot. I mean, people really seem to hate him because he had some of the worst fantasy games of any quarterback last year. I mean, he had multiple games like 3.4 fantasy points, 3.1 fantasy points, negative 4.3 fantasy points, 6 fantasy points. But down the stretch, I mean, he played pretty dang well. I had a tweet right after week 15 where I said in his best 4 games, he averaged 19.4 fantasy points, 290 passing yards per game, and an 106 passer rating. And 3 of his best 4 games had come in the last 4 weeks. And that was in week 15. And he finished the last few weeks of the season pretty strong too. So I think Metchi's a sneaky winner. And I like Mills a little bit in fantasy drafts.
So, I mean, I'm not going to touch him in redraft. I just don't see any upside there, but for super flex or best ball, that's a great pick. You know who I'm selling myself on, as disgusting as this sounds, is Jared Goff. I mean, Jameson Williams, DJ Chark on the perimeter. Only Miami is sniffing that in terms of speed. So you pin the safeties back, you stretch the field. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown and TJ Hawkinson to work the short to intermediate levels of the field. You have DeAndre Swift's going to have lighter boxes now. And I could see this team really surprising. I think last time I checked, they're still tied with 2 other teams to be the betting favorite to finish dead last and be picking first next year. But I think they're going to be too good. I think this is going to be a problem for them. I think they're going to be they're hoping they could solve all their issues and land one of the top 3 quarterbacks in next year's draft. But I worry they might be a little bit better than they're hoping, Any thoughts on this Detroit Lions offense? Credit to, who is it, Brad Holmes, because what a turnaround it's been in just 2 seasons.
Yeah. I didn't want to go into it too much because I know, Brett, he loves his Lions, but I don't see them finishing this year with the number of wins that he was projecting. I think they're going to be.
What was he projecting? He's
7 wins.
Bias.
7
okay,
wins.
That's a bit much.
The
over under was 4 last I checked.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know what the over under, and that's what I would say. 4 wins is going to be like the top end, and everything goes perfectly for them. It's 4 wins. So I think they're going to be right in the mix. And, you easily could move up a spot or 2 to get their guy at quarterback. I think that's what's going to happen. But it's kind of like the opposite of what I was saying about Davis Mills, where, obviously you're not going to want him in a redraft. But yeah, you in a dynasty and then, your guys field the best ball. These are things where I think Davis Mills is definitely comes into play. But then in a redraft, I do think Jared Goff is definitely somebody to consider. Now we do have to consider that Jameson Williams. I mean, he's still early in his recovery. I mean, he's only a few months, 5 months removed from his surgery, so it's going to take some time. It's probably going to be, I think, around mid-season before we start seeing him on the field and not being held back at all. So that's going to take a little bit of time. So it might actually be the next quarterback that really gets to take advantage of the Jameson Williams factor. But I've always been big on the Lions offense. I love that offense. The offensive line, it's right up there in the top 10. I mean, it's a really good offensive line, which is so rare for such a bad team. Usually that's the area that has been overlooked. They're trying to get all their playmakers together first, and maybe they have one strong offensive lineman. No, this is a stacked offensive line. The problem with me, I love the Aiden Hutchinson pick. Obviously, we were all like, "Whoa, that was so big for them." But the problem is their secondary is just it needs a lot of work. right? I don't care. They did add somebody in the secondary, and then obviously to go along with they have Jeffrey Okudah, and then they had Mike Hughes. They added Mike Hughes, and then Awarie. He's been like on the verge of a breakout. But we have some issues at safety. Definitely some issues at the other spots, around Hutchinson. And that's always been their problem. And that's what's going to hold them back. That's what's going to keep them from winning games. Their offense is going to have to go out and score. Otherwise, they're not going to win. And we saw they did pull some wins out there at the end of the season. But let's not forget, they beat the Packers. That was one of their wins. The Packers, they took their starters out. They didn't even care about winning that game. So that was one of their wins. And then they had a couple other wins. A couple of them were impressive, definitely. But I think they beat Denver. That was a really impressive one, at the end of the year. But I think they're going to be picking at the top, and we're going to see the Lions next year with either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, who are going to be like generational level quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is when I watched the Brad Holmes press conference, he was weirdly honest. They asked him about Aiden Hutchinson, and he was like, yeah, we had all the edge rushers graded similarly, which made it seem like he wasn't that pumped. Huh. He got Aiden Hutchinson too.
Yeah.
I know. Honestly, I don't think it was that. I wonder if he secretly wanted Kayvon Thibodeau, but he had to go with Hutchinson, the hometown favorite. And then he said the same thing with Jameson Williams. He was saying, yeah, we wanted to trade up for a wide receiver, and then there was a run on wide receivers, so we took Jameson. That's what
pissed me off about Tennessee is that they waited to trade A.J. Brown until the top 5 were already off the board. Like, what is wrong with you? You could have gotten one of those picks.
I told you Treylon Burks was their guy in the morning. Maybe they knew they couldn't get a trade that would put them that high for AJ Brown, but even that, I mean,
I promise you, there were teams out there that would have given them more. And
you'd hope so, right?
I just keep kicking this dead horse to death, and it's I'm sure everybody wants us to move on. I'm so butthurt about this.
So you're giving CJ Stroud or Bryce Young to the Texans. I'm going to start my 2023 mock draft right now and give the Giants the Lions, and give the Giants Will Levis to pair with my guy Wandel Robinson. So I thought this was funny. He models his game after Percy Harvin, where it's like, okay, I can see that, and Cooper Kupp, and it's like, I don't know about that one, but it's the same. The Rams offense and the slot role, okay. Taekwon Thornton models his game after Devontae Adams, who's over 30 pounds heavier. Drake London models his game after Mike Evans and Calvin Johnson. It's like, okay. Garrett Wilson models his game after Stevie Johnson. And you just wonder, it's like, I mean, what if he aimed higher? What if he modeled his game after someone who's made?
I saw he didn't. There was a different player that he loved growing up. It wasn't Steve Johnson.
That's what one of the Jets beats tweeted out. But okay, I'll take your word on that. So back to Wandel Robinson, one of my favorite players in the class. The only thing that my model had him wide receiver 10. He went wide receiver 10. I pushed him 4 spots lower just because of the height thing. Also, I cheated a little bit, looked at projected draft capital, and it was day 3. But really, really liked him. Really great numbers, really great athleticism. This presser was really interesting. It seemed like this was their guy for quite a while. Really like his separation ability, his run after the catch, his route runner. They asked him, well, isn't this a similar skill set to Kadarius? And the GM was like, yeah, but that's not a bad thing. Kadarius is awesome. And they asked Brian Daboll about his height. And Daboll was like, listen, I've coached a lot of smaller guys. Deion Branch was a Super Bowl MVP. Isaiah McKenzie last year. The GM chimes in with a smirk. Wes Welker. And Dable says, yeah, it's just your job as a wide receiver is to get open and catch the ball, however that may be. And he does that. He finds a way to get open. He has immense versatility. I believe he can play on the outside. And this is just getting me excited. Like, I worry about the minuscule catch radius and the inaccurate quarterback. But this is a player I loved, and he went to my favorite team. So, like, I'm amped.
Yeah, so it wasn't a great fit. I don't like Daniel Bellinger going to the Giants. I'll just say that. But outside of that, I think this actually speaks to where the NFL is headed. I don't think we're really tied down to this guy should play here, this guy should play there at wide receiver. I think it's becoming a situation where you can interchange. Even the smaller guys can play on the outside. We see it with Tyreek Hill. He's tiny, but he doesn't have a problem separating. And then I hate to say this. This is one of the things I hated to see this past year. But we're seeing less and less cover one. It's just it's dipping, and I think it's bad because obviously it takes away from our ability to take advantage in DFS. But I feel like if getting into a situation where everybody is playing zone, there's gonna be certain receivers that are gonna be able to excel and some that aren't. And that's unfortunate, but that's like a guy like Wandel. I mean, he's like I think he was number 2 cover one guy in this class, which is a good match with Daniel Jones. But I see the same thing. I see Kadarius Toney. I don't think you needed to bottle them up as their slot guys. We saw that with Elijah Moore. He's got when you have the athleticism, you have the footwork. There's only 5 yards you have to get past the corner, and they can't touch you. And I think that these are guys that they can move all around. Kenny Golladay is obviously a guy they're going to stick on the outside nonstop, but he's not going to be on the field 100% of the time, because especially with these two guys are going to be, to me, unless we see some better play from Daniel Jones, we're not going to see a big season out of Kenny Golladay. It was a horrible landing spot for him. He's going to a guy that just doesn't have that tight window accuracy to get him the ball that is we saw when he was playing with Stafford. But I love this here because I mean, if you're going to find guys that are going to create separation, Kadarius Toney and Wandel Robinson, these are two guys that can get open. And you didn't have to go out with Wandel. You didn't have to go out and use a top 16 pick to get him.
I just want to update the listeners. There hasn't been a single offensive player or fantasy eligible player selected since Daniel Bellinger 30 minutes ago at pick 112.
Isaiah Spiller was just drafted by the Chargers.
Raiders. By who?
Chargers.
Oh, okay. Who did the Raiders go with?
The Raiders went Zamir White.
Oh, okay.
122.
Oh, wow. All right. So I'm gonna delay. Zamir White goes to the Raiders. All right, Josh Jacobs is on his last year.
That was a massive spot for Isaiah Spiller going to the Chargers. He's their early down goal line guy now.
It's not Eckler.
Oh yeah, no. Don't take that the wrong way. Eckler is going to be on the field 100% of the time, but he plays a lot in the slot. I'm saying when they need that. I didn't mean early down. I meant short yardage and
goal line.
Short yardage goal line is what I meant. Sorry, not early down. No.
Yeah, so I mean that's irrelevant for fantasy. Like I don't want to draft.
It's big
Mike Tolbert 2.0.
Well, it might hurt Eckler a little bit.
Half
right?
PPR in standard leagues. That's a big spot.
Maybe standard. I don't know. I never liked Spiller. My production model hated him. Athleticism model hated him. Graham, who does yards created, watches the tape, hated him. So I'm just going to stick to that. Either you have to remember he was the consensus RB2 in Dynasty 3 months ago, and he's still like consensus RB3. So
no, I think he has long-term potential. He's got a big frame. He's got the moves. He's a jump cut guy. So, he's not a straight line guy. He's a guy that is trying to, kind of bob and weave around through the defense. I'm not saying that I was in love with him. He's definitely a big step down after, the top guy, after Brees and Kenneth Walker. But I think he's got some potential, and he landed in a good offense to to take advantage. I think it's a decent spot. And definitely in half PPR, I mean, you definitely see value in guys that are the goal line backs. Half PPR, yeah, man. You only get one and a half, maybe 2 points from a running back that's catching the ball from receptions. So I don't know, man. I think he's going to have some value in half PPR.
All right, Wes Huber, the former head of PFF College Special Teams. I don't remember your official title, but I know you specialized in special teams for a brief period of time.
Not just college.
Okay. A special teams player just went off the board. You want to guess who it was?
No, who?
Cade York, kicker out of LSU.
To the Browns. Okay. There's just no excuse for drafting. Round.
I agree. Apparently, he missed 4 extra point attempts in 2019.
Well, maybe the Dolphins. This is only their second pick of the draft. Maybe we can see them do something.
Right. Do something fun.
Something's fun. That's what I'm looking for here. I hate Zamir White, by the way. Not personally. I hate his game. He's a stick his head down and run at you with the crown of his helmet. He's the reason that type of running style is just dating back to the Trent Richardson days is what led to teams. I mean, the officials saying we've got to make some changes here. We can't let these guys do this. And that's his exact running style. And and I hate the fact that he's going to the Raiders because it's gonna tap into Josh Jacobs' value because they're gonna play him. Watch.
Wes, do you think Isaiah Spiller hurts Eckler's goal line role?
No. I think it's though when he is on the field, Eckler will be on the slot.
Gotcha.
It's a great offense for him to land in because he'll get some playing time, but Eckler is still top 10 guy overall.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, I mean I don't know what you guys think. That's just
no. I totally agree.
But okay, I saw when Spiller was better actually in 2020 when he had more weight. He had more weight on his frame. I didn't like him. He cut down, I think, 10 pounds for this season. I don't know what he was. I thought he looked he was too thin. He wasn't able to break tackles like he was the year prior. He was really good in 2020. I was very impressed with him in 2020. But I still can't get away from the fact that he wasn't the best running back in his own backfield. Devin Achane is the real deal.
All right, guys. Any other landing spots you want to hit on that we haven't hit on already? Any players you're super excited about?
I'm curious what you guys think of fellow Cincinnati Bearcat Alec Pierce landing in Indianapolis. Scott, I think your Martavis Bryant comparison that you made with Jim Nagy when you had him on the pod was pretty sharp, but I think Pierce plays a lot stronger than Martavis Bryant ever did. Pierce actually has the record for the deadlift record by a UC skill position player in school history. He's a really strong guy.
Yeah, he was on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's all of that and more athleticism wise. He's a possession receiver though. Even with all that athleticism, he's not really a guy that's going to take the lid off the defense. But that's where we have Michael Pittman. That's one of his pluses. So I think it's a good fit because we got a guy that's going to be working the underneath stuff. Letting Michael Pittman do his thing. And Michael Pittman, he's a screen and go guy. Either he's running something short or he's running long. So yeah, really, but that I'm looking over like this round, and there's really not a whole lot to get that excited about. But I think Damien Pierce and Isaiah Spiller are probably the two biggest things here.
The Dolphins just took Eric Izukanma.
Okay.
From Texas Tech. That was a guy Brett was extremely high on. I think he told me he values him as like 95% Treylon Burks, something like that. And so, if that's true, that's an insane value for the Dolphins. It'll be interesting to see how he slides into this offense. Is that another slot guy? Because to me, I'm counting he's not. Okay.
He's not. Right. No, he played on the outside. But, it's just like everybody else, or at least guys that aren't 6'5", where you have to just lock him into the outside. He played all over the place, but mostly on the outside. I think it's this where he lands here. It's going to be he's definitely not going to take snaps away from Tyreek Hill or
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, Jalen Waddle. But I think between I think we'll see him and Wilson kind of being the 3-4 guys in the offense. So nothing really exciting, but it's a good pick. He's a good change of direction wide receiver, and you can always use those guys. Yeah, he was a beast for Texas Tech last year.
So back to Alec Pierce. Yeah, the production. So the athleticism model loved him. Absolute freak athlete. And the comp to Martavis Bryant. I said that when I was, is Spiller a good stash and hold for a few years? RCS asks. I don't know. I don't think so. Like I said, I don't like him. Graham doesn't like him. Brett doesn't like him. When I made that comp, I was only looking at his athleticism, and they were like mirror images of each other. But Martavis Bryant was a freak athlete who'd put up some insane numbers as a rookie and sophomore before multiple suspensions.
Yeah, he had the drugs. That was his problem.
And I look. Oh, by the way, Wes, that was also apparently our boy Leonte Carew's problem.
Oh,
I was told by a source that's why he busted out, which was like. Wes and I, that was our all-time biggest miss was Leonte Carew. I'm a Rutgers homer. But yeah, so Martavis.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I don't think Alec Pierce is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be a team player kind of receiver.
So I haven't said my take yet. The athleticism, exactly Martavis Bryant, and like looking at the production stuff, I just assumed, okay, deep threat, some contested catch stuff. That's who he is. Production model did not love him at all, especially when you factor in his quarterback went round 2, or was it round 3, and he had no target competition. But I watched the tape, and I got fucking amped. I love the tape. I was blown away. I was shocked that the model could have him that low and the tape be so exciting. The explosion off the line was unreal. And they were giving him like Jameson Williams levels of cushion, like playing 10 yards off the line, and he would eat that up and then generate 2 steps of separation. And whatever he worked underneath, he always made the catch and often got the first down. And I don't know why they didn't just keep hammering that, but they didn't. So maybe you can tell me, Jake.
Our offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrock, is my mortal enemy. I despise Mike Denbrock. Okay. He is like, I 100% agree. Alec Pierce should have been used in a variety of ways, running all different kinds of routes, moved all around the field. Instead, we only played him outside, and he only ran slants and go routes. So like, I mean, I don't think the poor production is Pierce's fault at all. I think it's poor coaching. So yeah, I love Pierce. Like I think the production model is just going to miss on a guy like that because of the uncreative coaching.
Well, don't take it that far. I wouldn't say that the Cincinnati coaches were uncreative. It's a similar situation to North Dakota State, where Christian Watson didn't have a high target share. Is because they were running the ball 70% of the snaps. And then you also have to factor in that you say he didn't have any competition. Well, they've got a couple talented tight ends there at Cincinnati. But one of them, Josh Wiley, who I'm really high on, he didn't have a big year last year either. So it was we saw Desmond Ridder kind of distribute the ball. I mean, he just really distributed the ball around really well. And to a lot of guys that probably didn't deserve as many targets as they got. But how can you argue with the results of what the Bearcats have been doing? Plus, they got an invite to join the Big 12. I mean, I don't see a lack of ingenuity from the coaching staff. Who actually, I'm really high on that coaching staff.
Oh, I'm very high on the coaching staff too. I was never a fan of Mike Denbrock, and I'm really glad he's at LSU.
Okay. Well, we'll be talking about him next year. Some big time talents coming out of LSU.
Ooh, Pierre Strong goes to the New England Patriots.
Okay.
That was a player I liked a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah, I did too. That's
Another
a tough
freak
one,
athlete.
though. Man. I mean, he's going to fit. I guess he's going to fit more of the James White role, because there's no way he's taking that job, the short yardage or early down.
Yeah, but he didn't do anything as a receiver, did he?
He was okay, but they just didn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
They just didn't throw the ball to the running back. It was like I think he averaged around a yard per route run, but he just didn't get the targets. And I looked at the tape though. He did a lot of balls hitting his chest on his targets. So yeah, you're right. That's a weird fit right there, man. Patriots are just drafting weird this year.
I really didn't expect New England to draft a running back. That was pretty surprising.
Man, hard to get excited about anything they've done.
I mean, their scouting process is clearly pretty unique.
They just don't give a fuck. I think they just assume everyone's a moron and they're geniuses.
And it's like everyone starts talking about how running backs don't matter, and then they go and they draft Sony Michel in the first round.
Oh, or separation's overrated by drafting N'Keal Harry.
Yeah. I mean, look at their picks. Their first pick was Cole Strange, and that's basically sums up their entire drafting here. It's just strange.
That seems to be, I mean, when we think of some of the worst drafts in recent memory, I mean, a lot of them seem to be the result of teams not being very aware of the consensus draft board, right? Like just taking massive reaches on guys they didn't need to at all. I mean, we've seen this with the Raiders for as long as Mayock was GM.
Well, he wasn't the GM. He was just the figurehead. This came out after the fact, but John Gruden had total control. Or it was at least like 51%, 49% John Gruden's favor, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Henry Ruggs year was probably the worst draft I can remember because they had so much draft capital.
Yeah.
And just looking at their board versus the consensus board was insane. The only thing I'll say with this is like people are going to like dump all over these picks, but the Patriots are going to make the postseason this year. The Patriots are – And Taekwon Thornton's going to be sick on special teams. Pierre Strong is going to be sick on special teams.
Yeah, I think Taekwon and Pierre Strong, I think they were drafted right where we expected them to go. But I just feel like the fit's a little off. But then again, let's look at, like you said, they're going to make the playoffs. As Mac Jones improves, their playoff positioning and their success is going to improve. I think it was more like they're just drafting from a stance where everything for them is basically plus, but I was just looking over, just some of the teams that I've just loved their drafts so far. Man, the Packers, I mean, Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Christian Watson, man, I love that stuff right there. That is just like as good of a first three when you're drafting at the end of the round in the first. I mean, Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, man, those are studly picks right there. And then of course Christian Watson, and then the Chiefs. I mean, what do you guys think about the Packers and the Chiefs? They've done so well, I thought, with their capital here.
Yeah, I love the Chiefs going defense in round one. And then, I mean, getting Sky Moore in round two was just absolutely awesome. I mean, another team that I think has crushed this draft is the Ravens. They have 6 round 4 picks by my count.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I mean, they are like, it's really neat to see a team like the Ravens basically do the exact opposite of what the Rams are doing and trade away some of their better players for more picks. I mean, it's just, to me, it's a very intriguing strategy, and I love what they're doing overall. And I think that they're pretty good at drafting. So I'm excited to see what
they took Charlie Kohler.
They did.
The team you're talking about.
Yeah. Where do you think he fits in? I mean, tight end too?
Yeah, but look at they just traded away Hollywood. They're going 12 heavy.
Yeah. Yeah,
they're going to be 12 heavy 100% of the time. Watch.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, so it's a great move. Really is, because I mean we've seen their offense is just feeds the tight ends like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that landing spot for Charlie Kohler.
Yeah. What do you think about like sort of what they're doing from like a macro perspective with, trading away Orlando Brown, Hollywood, for all these picks? Do you think, if you were a GM, would you lean more into that strategy or maybe more towards what like the Rams are doing where they trade away all their picks for star players?
I'm not going to knock either one of them because we're
Mhm.
talking two of the most successful
Yeah.
franchises in the league here. Just year after year, they didn't have a ton of Super Bowls or anything, but they both won one, and that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I liked what they're doing here. Both teams, you definitely can't knock the Rams. The Rams are just talk about drafting from a stance of strength. I mean, good
Yeah.
Lord, I mean they have everything. They have everything they need. Maybe running back, but I think we're going to see better play out of Cam Akers. He was better than what we saw last year. He was better than that before his Achilles injury. And it was somebody that I was actually high on, but obviously, but okay. So when you have these Achilles injuries, the explosion is the last thing that's going to come back. And a player like Cam Akers, he needs that explosion. So when he gets that back, he's going to be the same player he was. We haven't seen issues. I don't know of any studies that have been done about possibly ending his career if he were to like pop his Achilles again or something like that. So I don't think there's going to be any limitations, but you do have to wonder, like the guys who tear their ACLs, they always have to have that in the back of their mind. If I tear this ACL again, I'm done. You know what I mean? So to me, that's like the one. I know the Liz Frank is I may have said that the wrong way, but the Liz Frank injuries are something that we should all be afraid of. But the ACL is multiple ACLs in the same knee is also one that definitely you want to be afraid about. So like you got Jameson Williams, you got John Metchi, you got George Pickens. I mean, all these guys are going to be thinking about that. And then we're talking about the Ravens. That's something that that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to be thinking about. It's like we got to be careful with this knee. I can't be, tearing it up again or I'm done.
So speaking of the Ravens, they actually just took a punter in round 4, and it was not Punt God.
Oh my God!
They took a punter.
Yeah, and it was not the guy who everyone was talking about as punter number 1.
How are you on top of who punter number 1 is?
You haven't heard about Matt Araiza?
No, I don't. I honestly, you mentioned what I did at PFF at the special teams director, and I was forced into the role, and I'm so glad I don't work there anymore, so I don't have to do it anymore. It was the worst. I'm not a special teams guy.
You could be running.
What a waste of your talent, Wes.
I was forced into it.
Yeah, what a waste of your talents. So you were asking me about. We were just hyping up also Jake Ferguson, Wisconsin tight end, went to Dallas. Production model liked him quite a bit, or a little bit.
Violence.
I don't know. I have to double check.
Combine. Choose violence. That's Barry Alvarez's nephew, by the way.
Who's Barry Alvarez?
The former Wisconsin coach. He's still a big deal at Wisconsin. He's a big decision maker there. He's a big name in Wisconsin. You just burned a lot of bridges with the Wisconsin faithful.
Yeah. So Jake Ferguson, a former top 5 recruit nationally, he averaged over 0.25 missed tackles forced per reception in 2018 and 2021. Those are the 5th and 6th best marks by any Power 5 tight end since at least 2014. So he's at least interesting by that one metric. Ravens take the punt demigod. Interesting. We just hyped up how amazing their draft has been, and it has been amazing. Like what a well-run organization. I read a lot of transcripts from coaches and assistant coaches, and I'll read the running back coach. I'll read the tight end coach, and I'll think it's like Belichick or McVay or Kyle Shanahan. The guy comes off like a genius, and it's just like such a well-run organization. Every year, the draft seems to fall perfectly into their lap. Credit to them. A lot of people praise them for the Marquis Brown trade, though I will not do that. I don't think he wanted to give him up. I think their hands were tied. He said he's been looking for a trade for years now. He doesn't like the scheme fit. And you know what? I'm sympathetic towards that. People dumping people. Hassan Haskins goes to Tennessee, by the way. That's your Derrick Henry handcuff.
Nice.
Not anything more than that, I think. But
I still like him. I like him a lot.
Do you? I was lower on him.
No, I like him a lot. We didn't get testing out of him, but his brother was a third-round pick in the NFL a couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and he blew up the combine. I mean, for a linebacker, he was either a safety or a linebacker. It might have been a safety. And I'm almost the exact same size as Hassan. I'm really big on him. He was injured in the Big Ten championship early, so we didn't see very good numbers in that game or in the playoffs. But I really liked him. I think his receiving ability. So he comes from a Michigan system where they have a couple of guys behind him, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, 2 guys that are just elite pass catchers. So they never threw him the ball. Never. Like when John interviewed him at the combine, he asked him about that. And he's like, yeah, I wasn't able to get any targets because of Blake and Donovan. They were just so good at catching the ball and, working after the catch that, I wasn't even in the conversation. So that's obviously going to hurt his evaluation for some people, but I just really liked him. I loved his game. I thought, I think that I looked at some of the things that after I wrote up his profile, looked at some of the things that were written up about him. I was like, wow. It's like, did you really watch the tape or did you just watch 1 or 2 games of the guy? This guy was really good last year and explosion. Just go look up hurdle or jumping over player with Hassan Hacks. Some of the pictures out there. There was this one run against Ohio State where he completely clean hurdled this guy and broke through another chat. I mean, it was just an unbelievable run. There's no way that Michigan beats Ohio State without Hassan Haskins last year.
So sorry, real quick, back to the Marquis Brown thing. Yeah. I think maybe that offense and that scheme was holding him back. I mean, it was extremely run heavy. It was inaccurate targets. People think he's just a deep threat. That clearly was not who he was last season for extended periods of time. I mean, obviously that fit isn't amazing, but another mobile quarterback who isn't terribly accurate, but whatever. Anyway, I'm not crushing. I'm not praising Baltimore for that trade, and I'm certainly not crushing Arizona. Someone asked, do we like the landing spot for Trey McBride? And I think that's a great question. I love Trey McBride. You were lower on him, Wes.
No, I wasn't lower on him. I had him as my tight end 1A, 1B. It wasn't.
Okay.
It was not lower on him. He was they were the elite to me. It was Kohler and McBride, and then everybody else.
All right. Well, sorry for putting words in your mouth. What do you think about this landing spot? I mean, Zach Ertz is there. He just signed a new deal, but it does seem like they can get out of it sort of easily next season, and tight ends don't really do much year one. Clearly, Arizona is just trying to pamper Kyler Murray to get him to sign at a discount. What do you guys think about this landing spot?
I like it. It's definitely not. It's not great for. You're not even going to touch him in redraft. But I think it doesn't change his star. I think he's still the player that we thought he was, and it's a spot that he's with a young quarterback that long term it's a good move. And to go back to what you were saying about Hollywood, I mean, this is one of Kyler Murray's best friends from college, and I don't care what AJ Green is expecting or what Rondale Moore is expecting. The only guy that's going to get targets ahead of Hollywood in this offense now is going to be Hopkins. That's it, Nuke, and then you're Nuke and Hollywood. That's how it's going to be. And then I would make the argument that Ertz is going to get the third targets on the totem pole here.
Rondale Moore is toast, man.
Oh, it's not even good at all for him. It's terrible. You know what? He should start taking some carries out of the backfield. He really should. He really should.
Why not?
Yeah.
Another special teams player went off the board, kicker Jake Camarda to the Buccaneers. But more importantly, the Packers select another wide receiver, Romeo Dubes. Wes,
I like him.
tell me about Romeo.
He was injured during the entire evaluation process, though, so we didn't get a good chance to look at what he could do athletically. We don't have a brother or anything that we can tap into, and but he was the top wideout for Carson Strong, and he was a dominant player at Nevada. I like him. I was so disappointed that we didn't have something to work with athletically, because I just and that was his chance. He was at the combine, and he wasn't able to do anything, and I think he gave us a bench press, and that's it. And I just want, he's a bigger guy, so we need to know what type of athleticism he has. And so but obviously that's the thing, is we don't get to attend these top 30 interviews and these workouts that the players have. So obviously maybe the Packers saw something with the workout that they were able to get, their private workout. And we know he's got the hands. We know he's got the nose to be a factor in the offense. So I like Romeo Dubes or Dobbs, or however you pronounce his last name.
Scott, was it his lack of workout metrics that made you make him your 25th wide receiver in your dynasty rankings? Because you're pretty low on him.
Yeah, so I really didn't spend too much time on him. He averaged like 106 yards per game over his last two seasons, but his quarterback was expected to get good draft capital, wasn't really competing for targets with anyone outside of that tight end, who I thought was a little interesting, in Cole Turner. I guess it was that. He just didn't really pop. Maybe it was the more advanced metrics, and then the lack of testing, but it wasn't super high on my radar.
Great spot.
Exactly. It's
fourth round too. So
Green Bay has a nice little track record on wide receivers. Same thing for George Pickens in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Sky Moore, a guy I'm lower on, Kansas City doesn't have a great track record. Taekwon, a guy I am high on, New England doesn't have a great track record. I wonder how much that means anything, but I don't know. Could be a steal. Wes seems to think so. My dynasty partner, TJ Calkins, very high on Romeo.
All right, here comes the Chiefs. Let's see what they can do. But yeah, I mean, what do we got left? A minute on the live stream here. So this has been a very uneventful fourth round. I like a few of the picks though. Cleaning up some of the players. I can't believe nobody's taken a shot on Sam Howell.
Right? I mean, this is
blowing
crazy. What do you think? Like, why do you think NFL teams are so much lower on Howell?
It must be something. It must be something to do with the interview process, because everything I see was considering the situation with his with the weapons that he had to work with, because he couldn't go pro last year after having those 2 big years. He had to come back this year. He had no choice. I think the issue is he should have transferred out. He should have went to another program and that had weapons that he could work with, because I don't think that like I was saying about Baker Mayfield, people don't want to hear excuses from quarterbacks. They just want to see production, and especially they want to see that final year of college production. And even though he went out there and just killed it with his legs, just throwing it to one guy didn't work out for him. So definitely something that my evaluation process is not perfect. I'm developing it as I go, and then this has definitely been an eye opener for me, because I loved everything I saw from him on tape, but obviously he made a few more mistakes this past year, but I didn't think it was enough to knock him out of the top 4 rounds. And this is crazy.
Yeah. So I will say, I spoke to a guy who was at the Senior Bowl who was extremely high on Sam Howell, and then he said there's something wrong with him. like he just watched him at the Senior Bowl and he was lackadaisical. He didn't really put in effort. He just floated, and it really disappointed him. He loved the tape, but he just thought there was something wrong with him mentally. Maybe that's it. I don't really know. I don't study quarterbacks. I just trust Greg and Wes and Brett and guys I trust, and look at draft capital and of course rushing upside, which he has. But I mean, at this point, is he draftable in even rookie super flex drafts? Maybe in like late round 3, round 4, if that.
He's not. He's not even going early in the 4th.
He went behind 2 kickers and not even a punt god, but a punt demigod.
No, he's an afterthought.
Yeah.
There's definitely, I mean, until we start getting access to interviews as fantasy analysts, I mean, if that's the case, then there's no way to work around that, because this kid was just lightning. He was everything. And then, get drafted in the 5th round is just it's about as bad of a scenario as it gets for a quarterback.
Someone's asking about the Zamir White landing spot. I mean, I love Zamir White's athleticism and really didn't like him in the production model. And I mean, this isn't great draft capital. He's not really a guy I'm excited to own in Dynasty. How do you guys feel?
He could go to the Texans and I wouldn't be on him.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can't get behind the landing spot. I'm going to be fading him.
He tore both ACLs prior to. Well, he tore his, I believe it was his senior year in high school. Tore his left his first year in Georgia, and maybe he was a big time prospect at that time, but the guy that I saw on tape was nobody that I'm interested in. He's a plotter. That's what he is.
All right, we're gonna finish out this round and probably take off from there. We got the Bengals, the Patriots, the Steelers, Ravens, Packers, Ravens, Rams, Titans. I'm crossing my fingers for Justin Ross in round 5. I might like that more than round 4 draft capital. Anyone else we're looking at besides this one quarterback and Justin Ross? Oh, Khalil Shakir, is he still on the board?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So is Calvin Austin.
Yeah, both those guys.
Yeah. There's some deeper running back guys, but this is right around the territory, 5th round, that we're going to see those guys go. But really, Isaiah Likely at tight end, he's probably the top prospect there. I know you like him as well, Scott. So I think it's pretty much. I don't care where Sam Howell goes unless he goes to Seattle, and then they don't go out and get Baker Mayfield. I think Sam Howell could beat Drew Lock out of the spot right now. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I think that we're, as far as guys that we just really want to see go like really soon are like Calvin Austin and Khalil Shakir and Justin Ross above those two. I like him quite a bit. I do.
I love him.
Yeah, he's not a deep separation guy, but man, I wish he still was the player that he was after his freshman year. Man, I was so high on him. I thought he was like wide receiver 1 the rest of the way, and then the injuries. But it was just so hard to evaluate him from his tape this past year because, like you said, I mean, he's running around with a broken ankle or a broken bone in his foot. It's just it was just unfortunate. And then the situation where with DJ Uiagalelei, who didn't step up and become the player that there's footage of DJ Uiagalelei who's probably going to lose his starting job this year to a true freshman. There was footage of him and Justin Fields at the I believe it was the the Army All-American game or one of the All-Star games after high school, and they're seeing which one can throw the ball the furthest. And Justin Fields gets out and throws it like 85 yards or something, and then DJ Uiagalelei ends up throwing the ball like out of the end zone. I don't even know how far he threw it. It was unbelievable. It looked like something that was photoshopped, but it wasn't. And so, I mean, I was super high on this kid. He came out first couple of games after when Trevor Lawrence went down when he had COVID. He stepped in and really was impressive, especially against Notre Dame. I was like, wow, this kid's going to be the big deal. And then this past year, he just flopped. He was bad. And then okay, so maybe, and then when John interviewed Justin Ross, he even made it a point to say, and I played with a really good quarterback. Like he was just trying to do some marketing for him. But then he went out to the spring game this year for Clemson and just was terrible. So I think it's done. He's not going to be a top pick. So we know that. We know that Ross played with a subpar quarterback.
The Patriots just took Bailey Zapp ahead of Sam.
Wow.
I mean,
That's like Mac Jones 2.0. You know, without the pedigree of playing with an Alabama offense. So I mean, it makes sense. They've got a decent core. I was actually impressed with him. He doesn't have a strong arm, but he's got some accuracy. He had the highest Wonderlic score, which is really not that important outside of processing. But yeah, I was impressed.
Oh my goodness. Justin Ross, he was getting like Larry Fitzgerald comps out after his freshman season. It was the best ever yards per route run season in PFF college history. And he did that while competing for targets against Hunter Renfrow, T. Higgins, Mari Rodgers. If you look at his numbers, the first two seasons, he was like perfectly even with T. Higgins on a per route basis. Just a massive upside. He's supposed to go round 7 because a lot of NFL teams aren't sure if he'll ever be the same player again. A lot of NFL teams don't want to take on the injury risk where just like one hit could result in paralysis or death like that. It's that serious. And so, you really feel for the kid.
Yeah.
And it's tough to evaluate from a fantasy perspective, but it's just like, okay, if he gets drafted at all, I don't care if it's late round 7, I'll buy him everywhere. He'll be cheap because of that draft capital and the upsides there. Because the talent, I mean.
Yeah.
We just want to see him
drafted. Just as long as he's drafted.
Exactly.
Then we can.
By the way, the rich get richer. We talked about Pittsburgh Steelers, their wide receiver track record. They landed George Pickens, who is Greg Cosell's wide receiver 1 in this class.
Wow.
They just took Calvin Austin, pick 138.
Okay, well, we won't have to look at the crap that they put in the slot last year, so that's good. Hey, these are good. Actually, these are good moves for them. They've got if you want to change a direction, slot guy. There's really, I mean, there's maybe one, maybe 2 other guys, but that are better. I mean, he has got some unbelievable testing numbers. I like Calvin Austin quite a bit. He's a little bit older, and then I love the Pickens. Pairing with Pickett because Pickett's not going to be able to throw it downfield, and George Pickens, man, he's a powerful guy, a very intimidating presence. So somebody that can do plenty of work underneath. He's not going to be able to tap into his. I thought he separated well. He separated pretty well for a big guy too. So he's not a 4.3 guy. He's more. I think he ran like 4.45 something like that. So I like that. I don't like the quarterback, but I like what they're doing since then.
Sauce Gardner said that Calvin Austin was the toughest wide receiver he faced in his entire college career, and I think that's pretty meaningful. Yeah, that's a fair point. But that did include the Alabama guys he played against in the college football playoff. So I mean, to be fair, that could just be because of the massive size difference between Sauce and Calvin Austin. I mean, Sauce is 9 inches taller than him. So
well, and then he's also like getting a massive target share at Memphis.
Yeah.
And like when they did play Alabama, the wide receivers really didn't play a big role because Brian Robinson just shredded them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. I bet you if Jameson Williams would have gotten the target share that he got in some of those other games, he would have been like, okay, and Jameson Williams too, you know.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's no knock, man. Seriously, I agree. I think Calvin Austin, man, he's a baller. He's a guy that
I liked Austin a lot.
He's going to be 24 week 1. You know, he's an older kid, but I think he's going to be somebody that could get on the field early.
Yeah, and plus I think especially with guys who are undersized, you really want to see them test like 90th percentile plus athletically, and Austin, you know, really fits that bill.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that wide receiver room shake out to you? Is it George Pickens and Chase Claypool on the perimeter and Deontay in the slot?
That's probably what we're going to see. And I bet you Deontay's going to hate that because, you know, he likes to work on the outside too. He's not as good on the outside, but, you know, it's probably going to kick him into the slot.
I mean, who did he have in the slot last year once Ray McLeod, once Juju Smith-Schuster went down? Yeah, and he was awful.
And he was getting like 10 targets a game. It was just, oof. It was pretty bad. Pretty bad. It makes it kind of gives you a little clarity why they pushed Pat Freiermuth onto the field after 2 concussions in less than 30 days, and they're forcing it. They're allowing him to take the field. I just talk about the next hit could kill somebody. That's about as close. That's about as real as it gets right there. But there were a few guys. You mentioned that last night, Scott, about Justin Ross and how the next hit could paralyze him. There were other guys too that did the same thing, and I don't think anything ever happened. I know some guys retired with similar injuries. I know that. There was the Steelers guy, played for Ohio State. He had alopecia where, you know, he didn't have any hair on his face. I'm drawing a blank who it was. Played linebacker. He was a rush linebacker for him, but he had to retire. He hurt his back, something similar. But
Shazier.
You know, what's that?
Shazier.
Yeah, Ryan Shazier, exactly.
Oh yeah.
And he had to retire because of that, because of a similar injury. If Ross can do it, if he can get on the field and he feels like he can, I mean, this is life-changing money, you know. So he's gambling on himself, and and they protect receivers these days. So at least there's that. At least he's not going to have, you know, some monster safety coming down and just landing a helmet right into his back, you know, or at least not legally.
So the Ravens just took one of our guys, Wes.
Who's that?
Hyper productive, hyper efficient, small school, non-athletic. One of our guys.
What position?
Tight end.
Oh, you talking about Isaiah Likely?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay. Wow.
Interesting. Doubling up
I
on
guess
tight end.
That just proves
Are they going to live in 13 personnel?
No, I don't think so. But you know, Likely is, like you said, he's not as athletic as the rest, but he's got the football IQ. That's what I like the most about him. I like his quarterback more, but yeah, I mean that's a good move. It proves they're going heavy all the way.
Yeah.
That's my production models, tight end 3 and tight end 4. They're going to live in 12 personnel.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. He was not. I took all of the ranks against cover 1, cover 2, 3, 4, and 6 and red zone. He was number 1 in average rank of all of those. Isaiah Likely. He was very efficient, and he was one of the top prospects coming out of Massachusetts. But like Pat Freiermuth, he got zero interest on the recruiting trails. One of the only offers he got was Coastal Carolina.
Tyler Algier's still on the board.
Yeah.
I was a little too high on him. That was one of my misses.
But this is right around the range where we're going to see a lot of running backs.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah, Jerome Ford's still on the board as well. Got to mention every Bearcat I can.
So this is interesting to me. Desmond Ridder, your boy, Jake Tribbey, and I know this means nothing. He had 3,300 passing yards and 30 touchdowns last year. Bailey Zapp, 6,000 passing yards, 62 touchdowns. It means nothing, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and he did the same thing when he was at Houston Baptist too.
A local school.
He had the Stearns brothers as well.
Wes, what do you think are the
Jareth Stearns has a brother?
Yeah, he's still on the team. Josh Stearns.
What position?
Wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
Wes, how do you think the Atlanta QB battle?
Wait, they transferred together, right, Wes?
All three. And then they had another kid that transferred with them. I don't know. Can't remember his name. But, yeah, another. Okay. He didn't do anything. Brandon Ratliff or something like that.
All right. Sorry, Jake. You can ask your question.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I was curious. How do you guys think this Atlanta QB battle shakes out? Because I think Ritter has a chance here.
They're saying
I like Mariota, though.
Yeah, they're saying they'll start him week 1. We'll see. I think you play Mariota until Ritter's ready. But we'll see. It'll all depend on the factors that we can't evaluate with numbers. So. They'll have a battle, and somebody will pull ahead. But I would put my money on Mariota for at least year 1.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning to. I'm super excited to roll out a Ritter, Drake London, Kyle Pitts stack in the Millionaire Maker in like week 14 or something.
Oh, absolutely. It's great I love the situation for Kyle Pitts. It couldn't be better now that he's got some real talent around him.
Oh yeah.
So the Ravens are picking with like the 17th pick in the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
How are they going to roster all these guys?
What tight end are they going to take? James Mitchell?
Jeez, yeah, I guess so. I'm surprised they haven't added a running back.
I mean, this is what smart teams do. They trade back, and then they trade back, and then they trade back, and the more darts you have to throw, the more hits you're going to have. So
yeah, but I mean, you can't trade back on your edge rushers, on your quarterback.
I mean, I don't disagree.
Yeah, there are like definitely some positions you can trade back for all day. But yeah,
people gave the Lions a poor grade on the Jameson Williams trade, but if you look at what they gave up, that was I thought an awesome trade, especially given that insane run on the wide receivers, and for a team that doesn't need a wide receiver to contribute right away in his rookie year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Trading up to get one of those top 5 guys just makes so much sense.
These analytic bros, they lose themselves sometimes with, important nuance or context, or not appropriately rating the importance of polar extremes when looking at certain data. Yeah. And I think it's just a mistake. So like people get annoyed with me. It takes so many words for me to articulate something, but there's just so much nuance in the game of football and making these decisions. So if I were a GM, I would try and trade down as much as possible, but there are certainly some situations where I'd be happy to move up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. It's a game of inches, and those inches are gained by the elite athletes. And at certain positions, you can't get that type of athleticism late in the draft. It doesn't exist. And really, you can't get it outside of the first round. You've got to go up to the first round to get certain positions. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time, and your team's going to suck.
A lot of analytic guys I found are really good at data analysis. Really bad at logic. And if you're not good at logic, you're not good at data, manipulation and analysis and all that stuff. Ravens take Damien Williams, cornerback, Houston. So another local guy for me.
Huh. I didn't know Houston had a pair of solid corners. Because we toasted them defensively last year. But.
Oof. Well, you have a pair of solid corners, right?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant went early 4th round to.
This is the first pick for the Rams, isn't it?
Their first pick was 104. Right? Yeah.
Who'd they take? They took a guard
Yeah, that's
think
right.
so.
Yeah.
or a tackle. Logan Bruss, Wisconsin.
I'm assuming you guys saw that clip of McVay saying that he thought,
Oh, of course.
Cole Strange would be there at 104, which,
Oh, yeah.
geez, Patriots, what are
Yeah, the Patriots are all over that one.
got to snipe the Rams at 104 in the first round.
He said it was taken out of context, and he was just giving the GM grief for wasting his time.
But that I think there's a little bit of truth in it, though, and I think that speaks to how far the Patriots reached there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that he's not.
I'm with you, Wes.
I just think they could have moved back a little bit to pick him up. Talk about trading back. That was a spot they should have.
I mean, they might have tried to, and they just didn't get any offers.
Yeah,
could have been a dead zone.
Maybe.
And Belichick, like I said, he doesn't give a fuck. He thinks he's the smartest man in the room, and you know what he probably is. I think he's earned the right to think that. So go ahead and reach on your non-FBS guys.
But if you look at so edge rusher and wide receiver was completely picked through by that point. I mean, there was Christian Watson, but outside of that, there really wasn't anything there. And then,
oh my God, why not take Christian Watson, right?
Well, yeah, no, I love that pick.
That's
but what I'm saying is normally at the end of round one, you got teams wanting to move up to try to get a quarterback, but another quarterback didn't go till a third round, and it was 323. So it wasn't even. It's not like your typical year. So I'll be like 5 minutes behind on these picks. So let me know who the Rams take here. I'm interested. Talk about from a situation of luxury.
I mean, they made some really weird picks, like Tutu Atwell, which granted, I'll take the L on that. I liked him more than a projected draft capital, but I mean, they liked him way more than I did. And then again, they hit on a late round Cooper Kupp, so.
I don't think it's time to call it quits on Tutu. I mean, he was hurt, and then. He's on the right roster. If he can get a job in there,
right? It's just sort of even envisioning him in that Deshaun Jackson role that lasted like 12 total snaps.
Yeah,
he could bring some value there that way.
So pick is in. Yeah, really, the only guy I'm shocked that hasn't been picked is Sam Howell. That's it. Everything's gone pretty much to plan.
Yeah.
Even Bailey Zapps getting drafted. Jeez, man, I didn't even think about that.
How many more punters have to go until Howell hears his name called?
There has to be substance to what that guy told you. Has to be.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that guy had him QB1, dropped him down to QB4, and then bumped him back up to like QB2. So, I don't know. McBride, Dulcich, Kolar, Woods, Likely, Ruckert, Bellinger, Otten, Chig Okonkwo is a little interesting.
Yeah, but
Garrett Prince is a later round guy.
He's like mid. He's going to be 25 plus in week one.
I do know, but he's also a freak athlete. But he went to his pro day. He ran all that stuff very seriously hurt, so it screwed up the numbers.
Driving me crazy.
Jake Ferguson gone. Austin Allen, I think, is interesting. Brees Hall gone. Walker, Robinson, White, Pierce. Algier still on the board. That's a big guy. Spiller, Strong, Cook, White, Tyler Batty, Jerome Ford, Kennedy Brooks, Ty Chandler.
All fifth rounders, though. These are all fifth.
No, I know that. And then wide receiver. Let me just scroll down. Justin Ross, Kyle Phillips. Do you like Calvin Austin more than Kyle Phillips?
Yeah, I wasn't as high. I like when when Chris Olave was coming out of high school, it was actually Kyle Phillips was the big name. Chris Olave was like an afterthought in California, so it's kind of interesting. But and which is also interesting is that and that's the same deal because Dulcich, that was when he was coming out, and he had a really good senior year, but he was just so small. He was so thin. It was like 208 pounds or something, and he was the same height, so he didn't draw much attention. But yeah, I mean, I like Phillips. He's it's just he's not like a big name for me. It's
I love how you know high school guys better than most analysts know NFL or college football guys. The Rams took cornerback from Duke, Mateo Durant. I'll be honest, I don't know who that is.
Oh,
no. Did I say that?
Jacoby Durant.
Jacoby Durant. Okay, I was about to say that's not the same. Yeah.
Oh, and there's Chig Okonkwo to the Titans. I like that.
Yeah, he's an H-back type though. He's not going to play. He's not going to play in line as much.
So what's he going to do?
He's going to be in at fullback a lot. He's only 6'2". He's not big. That
all right. Well,
I had him high on my list until I realized, oh wow, this guy's short.
Yeah, I just love the athleticism. That's an L for me.
Yeah,
I'll learn from it. We're gonna hop off here in just a minute. Quentin Fensky says Cowboys replace Schultz with his literal clone. Okay, I'll take that if that's your upside comp for Jake Ferguson.
I like him a lot. Good kid.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, this just about wraps up. We're at the 2-hour mark. We're done with the first round of the Day 3 Fantasy Points live stream. Any closing remarks, boys?
Well, we're going to see a lot of running backs get drafted 5th round. I'm about to go get some Godfather's pizza. Looking forward to that, and it's been fun. And so we'll get some post draft live streams together and talk about all this stuff. And so
we need to do that. We need to hammer our rankings and get that set in stone. It's what the people want, what the subscribers want. We'll do according to our producer, we're going to do a powwow, Fantasy Points powwow live stream Thursday and Tuesday with Greg Cassell and Adam Kaplan, NFL Insider. So be on the lookout for that. And if you're into USFL, if you're one of those insane degenerates, my guy Jake Tribbey is killing it. He's raking in the dough. The analysis is on point. There's a massive edge because no one wants to grind USFL DFS like Jake Tribbey does because he's a lunatic. And if you're into golf, which I'm not, but the content's good, and I'm sort of against all odds, sort of kind of getting into PGA. The content is great. DFS, I mean, Graham is printing money every single week, only for $14 a month. Check that out. And thanks for joining us today, guys. We'll see you soon.
Later, guys.
See you guys.